So yeah, almost everyone said yes. But GME is the ticker symbol for GameStop. This is my notes. I forgot to delete that. So what is GameStop? GameStop is a retail game store, which you guys have probably seen in malls and stuff. It lost $673 million in 2019, lost $471 million in 2020. The revenue has been down 2 years in a row. The future of gaming is in digital downloads, which GameStop does not do. They just have like a storefront where you can like buy discs and stuff. Experts basically expect them to go bankrupt. They say that based on the way the world is going, this is just one of those stores, that's one of those businesses that's not going to be able to exist, like, like Blockbuster did, right? It's kind of even amazing that like gamers are generally, you'd think, would be more tech savvy than stock image. Cool apartment. Fernando's in front of a fancy farm. That's true. Okay, sorry, I got distracted by the comments. I'll let VV be on top of those. Yeah, so basically GameStop is like very likely to go bankrupt, just that like Blockbuster did, and Blockbuster ceases to exist anymore, and so the stock goes to zero. And so why is that interesting? Well, because so that's interesting because it's a bad stock, right? And so in fact, in my course, which many of you have probably taken, if not all of you, I mentioned GameStop in September of 2020. So this was like 4 months ago. I said, that Apple's a good company because everyone has iPhones and your friends have iPhones, and there's iTunes and the App Store, and I think like the stupid little headphones by themselves are like the 100 biggest company on the planet. If like all it was selling headphones, they're like bigger than every other company on the planet except for 99, something like that. I think it's like actually pretty accurate. But the thing is, who cares? Because everybody else knows that too. So when you're buying Apple stock, you have to buy it so high, right? I actually used GameStop. This is like I just dragged the slide from like a 4 months old PowerPoint into this. I used GameStop as the actual example of a terrible company. I said, clearly the future of gaming is in digital downloads. They're losing money. Like they're not going to be able to sustain. But the problem is the price has been driven so low that who cares? Because the price is just like pennies. And so like if you buy it, you don't really have much to lose, and you have everything to gain if something weird happens. I almost wish I would have clipped myself saying that from maybe VV. We should like do a cool video edit of me like October 2020 being like, who cares if you think GameStop sucks, and be like, then it shows it goes up. My point at the time was, if something weird happens and GameStop suddenly turns it around, gets a new CEO, outperforms on earnings, who knows what, the price could skyrocket because everyone expects it to be so bad. And so you don't buy and sell companies based on which companies are good and which ones are bad. We know which ones are good and which ones are bad. You buy based on which ones are which are going to outperform expectations. And how do you know that? The answer is you can't really know that because the entire world's knowledge is priced into those expectations. So what happened with GameStop? So it was a shitty company that was going out of business. The stock was pennies, whatever. We all knew it was a bad company. And then something weird happened. So enter short selling. So short selling is when this is not my graphic. I brought it from Napkin Finance. So thank you to whoever that is. But basically a short seller is someone who thinks a stock is going to go down. And so they borrow a stock from a broker or a brokerage or another person or whatever, and then they immediately sell it on the market. And so they basically sell it before they buy it. Then at some point later, they buy it back and return the stock. So basically it's a bet that the stock's gonna go down. So if I borrow a stock and sell it for $10 and I get my $10, then I sell it later for $5, then I've like made $5 on that stock because I get $5 out of nothing. And so basically when people short sell a stock, they're betting that stock's gonna go down. In general, it's relatively uncommon. Like most stocks are not being short sold at any given time. Most people hold what's called long, which means they expect it to go up in the future. And short selling is a risky proposition because like, let's say I borrow a stock at $10 and then it goes up to $1 million a share. Like my $10 investment, I owe $1 million on it, right? There's no, like if you buy a stock long for $10, it goes down to zero, you lose $10. But if you buy it short for $10, it goes up to $1 million, your loss is potentially infinite. And so, yeah, even Napkin Finance guy agrees, amount of money that you can lose is essentially unlimited. And so this is like a risky proposition. And in addition, stocks generally go up because companies are profitable and they collect revenues and pay dividends and all that good stuff. And so betting a stock market, stocks go down, it's like a risky proposition. So what happened is at this time, about a year ago, all these hedge fund managers looked at GameStop, this shitty company, was like, all right, these guys are dead. And the share price was like $4 a share. They're like, we think the share price is going to go to zero. So we're going to short sell it. This company's going to go out of business, just like Blockbuster did. We're going to short sell. We're going to make, if we buy if we short sell 1 million shares at $4 a share and buy them back at zero, we'll get, $4 million. And so they're like, great, free $4 million. And so according to Forbes, GameStop is one of the most heavily shorted stocks because everyone is betting against it because they all know it's going to go out of business. According to the journal, at the end of December, more than 138% of its shares available for trading were sold short. That is possible because traders are able to borrow shares from other investors, and those shares can be loaned more than once. And so basically, like, every single share out there in the market was a borrowed share. Not even every single one, and then the same ones, 38% over, was borrowed and then sold short. And so it was this crazy thing. So a year ago on Reddit is an online message board, if you don't know, some dude had a theory, and this was some dude's theory. What dude? Well, I'll show you, but who knows who he is. He said too many people are short selling the stock. He said GameStop has enough cash on hand to outlast the short sales coming due, which means maybe they're going to go out of business, but before they go out of business, all these 138% of people who are the shares that are short sold, they're going to have to buy those shares back to return them back to their original lender. When the shorts come due, the stock price will rise. Therefore, I'll make risky bets that the share price will go up. That was his theory. And it actually dates back to the end of 2019. So it's almost, it's over a year old now. Was it a good theory? Who knows? Like the guys on Wall Street thought this was a bad theory because they're like, no, it's just going to go out of business and, we'll get the shares somehow or another. Like there'll be enough liquidity in the market. That was some dude's theory. This is his Reddit post from, you can see over here, from September 8th, 2019. All these are basically, and these are technically calls. So it's just like options trading, which is basically like a way to gamble on the market without even buying shares. But he's basically making bets that the market's going to go up. So he bet $50,000 that GameStop, GME, was going to go up. And as you can see, he bought January 15th, 21 calls. And this was back in September 19th. So he's basically saying, I bet it's going to go up by January of 2021. So he did this like 18 months in advance or whatever. And you can see his calls had already gone up to $113,000. So like this bet had already been paying off. This is his commenting at the time, like now a year ago. And then, because GameStop's earnings came out and they underperformed. So basically people thought GameStop was going to lose money. And then GameStop lost even more money than they thought. And this guy said, you dead, bro, meaning GameStop really is going out of business. They've underperformed expectations. Your bet that if the stock's going to go up is going to be wrong. And this is a risky bet because he can lose it all. Like if it actually goes down, he loses it all. And so they said, you dead, bro. And then he says, we'll see. And this deep fucking value guy, that's the guy right here. You can see who actually is doing this whole thing. He says, we'll see. This guy says, blah, 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 blah. And he says January 2021. So this is literally like in the end of 2019, he's like calling his shot for January 2021. I mean, by the way, if you look at your watch, it's currently January of 2021. Then this guy posts to Reddit basically, every week or so, I think once a week for the last year plus. And he just keeps posting his screenshots of this sort of thing, right? What's actually happening. And it varies over the year, right? Then what happens with GameStop? So you can see this was back in the first quarter of 2021. GameStop actually, that green means it outperforms. So these little blue circles, and they should make this a different color, but this is the zero line. And so this line right here means this company is making money or losing money. And so you can see in the second quarter of 2021, they're expected to lose over $1 a share, and they lost more. And they're expected to lose $1 a share, and then they lost more. And then in the fourth quarter of 2020, they're expected to lose 75 cents, and they actually outperformed that expectation, but they're still losing money because you can see all three of these quarters, they're losing money. But now GameStop, whatever, I don't even know the details, their business, they've turned it around a little bit, and they expect to make money in the first quarter of 2021. And so when a company goes from being expected to lose money to being expected to make money, the stock shoots up. Plus, this clown on Reddit is basically pumping the stock. He's saying, hey, everybody, look at what's happening. All these short sellers, all these guys who have bet millions and millions of dollars that GameStop's are going to go out of business are about to be wrong. And they're going to have to buy back all those shares that they borrowed and return them. If we all buy the shares too, they're going to have to buy them from us and pay us an even higher premium, right? And that's called a short squeeze. That's called a short squeeze, where basically these short sellers need to get their shares back to like pay back the thing that they borrowed. But since everybody else is buying too, they get squeezed, and they have to like, it gets bid up and bid up and bid up. And so according to Forbes, what drove GameStop's shares was a short squeeze on steroids, right? It was like a short squeeze plus this outperformance plus this like Wall Street bets Reddit like pump and dump thing. And so what happened to GameStop's share price? It went up a lot. So you can see back here, this is the 6 months view. 6 months ago, it was $3.94. It's basically up 100x in 6 months. Like the returns are just insane, right? I mean, this chart's almost like comical. It looks like a side view of the wall in Game of Thrones or something like that. And you can see this was today. It closed at 347. After hours, it's down $116. This is the after hours. So like, what's going to happen tomorrow? Who knows? But how is our hero doing? How is this guy doing? Who called his shot for January 2021? This is his current thing. Posted it today. He's posting them every week. He's at $47.9 million. So this guy, some dude who has a swear word in his Reddit username, like apparently, according to the screenshot, currently is up. And this is, and so see, now his bet is based on April 16th, 20. So now he's still betting that in April of 2016, it's going to still go up. So as long as he like maintains this position, he's currently at 47 million, but this could also go to zero because he doesn't even own stock. He's doing these like option call bets, which he's just betting it's going to go up basically. According to the New York Times, so who's on the other, like, so where did this 47 million come from? According to the New York Times, this hedge fund that was betting millions of dollars, but had to go raise $2.75 billion to like basically buy back the shares he was due. Like this 2.75 billion is what's getting fed into this, which is like, and the whole market cap of the whole company right now is 24 billion, which means that's so not even every share is out there. They're still owned by the owners. Like a lot of them were bought and sold at lower prices, whatever. So like, this is like a crazy number for a company that's like expected to be worth nothing in the upcoming months. Who knows? So that's basically what happened with GameStop. And like, the news is developing I say the news, it's just ridiculousness because it's all like gambling nonsense, but it's if we Google the ticker symbol right now, in fact, let's do it. Why not? It'll be fun. So if we go Google GME, you can see actually when I took the screenshot, they were down $110 in after hours trading. Now it's down $56. So like it's still down from this close price, but it's trending back up. And that's kind of been happening the last few days. Like it closed when it went from $3 to $30, it was like, that's insane. 10x, like that's the end of it. Then it went to $100 and it's $350. So like, is it going to go up tomorrow? No idea. How could I possibly know that? If I knew the answers to questions like that, I would be a much more wealthy man. I would be posting a Reddit with $47 million screenshots. So that's basically my assessment of what happened or what is currently happening. Like this short squeeze, the slight outperformance of expectations, and if you read the forums on Reddit, it's like everyone's just like, keep holding, let's shake these Wall Street guys down for as much as we can, which is like, I don't know what that is. Is that legal? Is it not? In fact, like, is that a pump and dump? because there are rules against, putting out positive news about a company, or I should say buying stock in the company, putting out positive news about the company to drive that price up, and then selling it, dumping it, pump and dump, and then like letting whoever fell for that fake news or whatever to left holding the bag. Is this a pump and dump? Officials at the SEC and elsewhere are closely watching the internet chat rooms for signs of potential market manipulation, though they can only do so much without clear signs of fraud. If a big group of traders simply decides to buy options on a stock at the same time out in the open, proving malfeasance may be difficult. And so like, these people are basically just clowns on this forum being like, let's all buy it. Are they manipulating the market by putting out fake news and secretly owning those shares? Like it doesn't, I don't know. That's beyond my pay grade. So I think the question everyone wants to know is like, so can you make money from this? And a lot of people are asking me, should I buy GameStop stock? And whenever anybody asks me, should I buy blank? In my experience, that thing is about to tank. Like a few weeks ago, for some reason, I had like 10 people in a row ask me if they should buy Bitcoin. Then the next day it dropped from like 40,000 to 30,000. It's still very high. Like I think it could go way lower. Who knows? The key of making money on stocks, right, is to buy low, sell high. Is GameStop low or high right now? To me, it looks very high. That seems like that's high. Like, if you're buying at 347 a share, do you think it's going to go to 1,000 a share? Like, it's valued at $24 billion. That's like more money than they're even, they're losing money every year. It's like whatever, 4 or 5 times the revenue. It's just, none of it makes any sense. So should you buy GameStop? No, I don't think so. So no, like I hope no one on this chat thinks they should be buying GameStop. But the real question is like, was this dude's theory good? Let's go back to some dude's theory. Was this dude's theory good? And if so, can we do this in the future? And already there's like rumors spreading about AMC, which is like a failing movie theater, BlackBerry, which is a failing handheld device company, and everyone's like, let's just do the same thing with some other random shitty stock. This is my assessment. And so like AMC and BlackBerry, and I think one other have like seen like 30% rises or something like that. Right. So can you make money from this? In my opinion, so the question is, well, before we get to that, I want to show you a simulation. This is something I literally did this afternoon. I didn't actually flip quarters, but I did use an online random quarter flipping site. And I got 10 different coins and I flipped them all 10 times. So I got 100 total flips. If you add them up, it came up 55 heads, 45 tails, close to 50-50, obviously. But you can see coins 3 and 8 got 10 heads. And so what do we draw from this? I think because you see all 10 coins right now, you can shrug your shoulders and say, well, it was random. Like clearly some quarter is going to end up just getting more heads. This guy got 2 tails. I should have probably highlighted that one. This one got 2 heads. This one got 8 heads. This one got 8 heads. And then basically all the other ones had 5s and 6s. But in a vacuum, if all you saw was some guy who came up to you and was like, yo, I just flipped this coin 10 times in a row. It came up 8 heads. This is my magic head flipping coin. You should bet that it's going to be heads in the future. Like, would that be a good bet? The answer is no, because it just happened that it just so happened that that guy had a coin that flipped. It's not a magic coin. This one's not more likely to be heads than the others. It was just random luck. And when there's 10 coins, you know that one of them is definitely going to have a bunch of heads, right? And so to look at this coin and say, this is a good coin that's going to flip heads in the future is incorrect. That's what's called selection bias or hindsight bias, where you can say, oh yeah, in hindsight, clearly quarter 3 was great. But going forward, is that going to be true? So what you have to ask yourself about this Reddit stuff is, in 2019, how many threads were there on Wall Street Bets? Tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands. Of those, how many were successful? I don't know, maybe 5 or something. Was this luck or skill? I don't know. There's going to be some coins that are going to come up heads, and there's going to be some threads on Wall Street Bets that end up being right. Starting today, going forward, is GME a good buy? I doubt it. Right. And so remember when you hear stories about this, you're like natively susceptible to selection bias because you're just hearing about, like this screenshot of this dude that has $47 million in his account is like extraordinarily tempting, but it's like the ultimate selection bias because we're just looking at the one guy, the one coin that came up heads 100 times in a row. That doesn't mean it's going to happen in the future. And it doesn't mean we can predict it. Plus, now that the world is aware of this, it's probably not going to work next time, right? Now that the world's aware of over shorting a stock and internet forums coming after you or whatever, people are going to be very hesitant to like publicly be shorting stocks or be more aware of this, right? So like what happened in the past is not going to happen in the future because now that is priced into the market, right? So in my opinion, this is just one of those weird things. Like I'm sitting on the sidelines eating popcorn. Like I wouldn't touch GameStop stock with a 10-foot invisible pole or whatever. And I still say the exact same thing. Like what we know, who cares? Because all this is priced in the market. Like I'm still going to watch because I think it's entertaining, but like I'm not going to even pretend to propose that I could make money from what's going on right now. And like if I, the day that people in here start buying BlackBerry stock because it's like the next one, there's the day that's just going to stop working, it's going to tank, right? And you can lose lots of money this way, right? Like GameStop has a long way to fall. Like if you buy a share at $340, it could go back to $4 and you can lose 99% of your money or whatever it is, right? It's crazy. Should you short GameStop stock? That's really hard to say. Should you short? These hedge fund guys who have been shorting are basically still shorting because like, well, now it's more true than ever because of course it's going to go back down, but just like this game of chicken. And when you get involved, it's just like, it's an opportunity to get burned. And, this stock, still suffers from the same thing every stock does, which like, it's no more or less likely to outperform the market. You're just exposing yourself to more volatility without expectation of future outperformance. And it's basically it's gambling at this point. You might as well go to Vegas and bet on black or red because you'll have as good of a chance of getting it. And if someone does go to Vegas and they said they bet on black because they had a system, don't believe that they're good at roulette. Just believe they got lucky, right? So Vivi, what's people saying in the comments?
Esther said her friend bought $3,000 worth of GameStop on Monday and sold it today for $10,000.
That's great. I mean, I wish, with hindsight, I would have done the same thing, of course, but I still say it goes to selection bias because like, do you think coin number one is telling all his friends about his massive fuck up or all these other guys that just are getting average returns? Like, you only hear about the big fish stories, right? So like, it's great. And I don't fault that, your friend or whatever, but, yeah, I just beware of the big fish stories because no one's talking about all their losses. What else, Vivi?
People are talking about AMC. What's happening with AMC?
I didn't actually look into it. I think it's something similar where it's just a failing movie company and they're trying, I mean, if someone knows, they might know. But I think it's, I wouldn't, for the exact same logic I just walked through, I wouldn't bet on AMC.
It was up 300% today.
Yeah. I think it's literally just the same thing. It's another stock that's shorted and that Wall Street Bets is like jumping on. I wouldn't get involved. But if you want to, I would follow my 90-10 rule, 90% buy and index funds and with 10% you can go gambling. But yeah, I think that these things are not likely to work out for most people.
That's about it.
In 2010, my neighbor lost his home from a margin call. Damn, Liz. Yeah, that's crazy because, margin is when you're borrowing money to make a bet. And that's just like the ultimate of like way to get burned, right? And when it works, you get these insane big returns, but when it doesn't, you lose your house, right? And it's just gambling. So, I couldn't ever like suggest it's a good idea because you're no more likely to win than, just luck or whatever.
After COVID, aren't people gonna want to return to the movies?
Yeah, I mean, stuff like that is just kind of like always being baked into the price, right? Like, what's the share price? How likely are people to go to movies now? Like, so we can't, it's the same graphic, like this who cares graphic. Like, we know people are going to want to return to the movies, but everybody else knows that too. And so because you know that, you'd have to buy a share of AMC from someone else who also knows that. And so like, why are they selling it if you're buying it, right? It's all priced into the market. All right, let's move on. Community Q&A. First one from Tom Barry. Not really a question, but someone had to mention it. Emoji with a halo around its head. Need your thoughts on the squeeze madness going on with GME, AMC, BB, etc. Put our FOMO at ease, Jeremy. Tom, weren't you listening, bro? I just talked about that for like 15 minutes. Come on, man.
Well, clearly I wasn't expecting you to start with that, but point taken.
I'm just kidding. I could have moved that question up. I just put that in here for the joke. But yeah, I had already planned all this, and then I saw your question. I was like, well, that's a good question. Yeah, FOMO, if you guys don't know, is fear of missing out. Tom, did I assuage your FOMO at all?
Yeah, I mean, everyone's smart that I listen to, like in the personal finance community anyway, like no one's, buying. And, I'm not going to change my long-term, like kind of outlook plans, my goals just based on some short-term, get rich quick or day trading or whatnot. So, I mean, there's a little bit of FOMO because you see these people who are putting in, a few grand or less and coming out with a ton, but
I mean, don't get me wrong. I feel, and like, if you want to, like I said, like my 90-10 rule is keep it small. Like if you want to do some gambling, but like, don't do margin calls and lose your house. And I think that you'll find that when you do it, it's just like seeing a lotto winner, right? You're like, oh man, like someone's got to win. But then when you play the lottery, you never win. You're like, what's the disconnect here? And the disconnect is like just this one dude out of a million posters or whoever who happened to hit it rich. Like it worked for him. Like it's not going to work for you, right?
Yeah, I keep thinking I'm going to run into that as soon as I put some money in. I'm going to be the person that gets stuck. And also if you're already kind of automating your finances the right way, you pretty much should have all your money invested outside of like your emergency fund anyway. And I'm not going to cash out my long-term investments to play with this. I'm not going to cash out my emergency fund to invest in this either. So
it's a good plan, Tom. In another 10 or 20 years, you're going to be a multimillionaire and you're going to still see people randomly getting rich quick. And you're like, well, I got rich slow because I knew it was going to work.
Exactly.
All right, let's move on.